What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. I'm Chris Lehto, retired F-16 pilot, now investigating unidentified anomalous phenomena. Today is a reaction video to an article by Ryan Graves. Ryan Graves is one of the few military aviators who is speaking out about UAPs, and now he is getting serious. He has started a podcast called Merge Podcast, which is very interesting, and he is starting a new organization dedicated to pushing the aviation safety apparatus in the US to looking into UAPs. It's an ambitious project, and I wish him all the luck. So let's go through Ryan Graves' article, give my reaction to it. Chris Lehto, welcome to Lehto Files. This is the article in Politico. We have a real UFO problem, and it's not balloons. America's fixation on the recent objects floating over the country overlooks a much more serious problem with advanced technology aircraft that we can't explain. All the people covering UAPs seem to have this general take is the US basically went berserk, all the news covered it, shot down all these balloons, but when it comes to actually UAPs, so unidentified other objects in the airspace, they're totally silent, right? They haven't said anything since 2014. That's when Ryan Graves first saw these things, 2014. So I've seen Alex Dietrich wrote out articles. So did Ryan Graves here. I've also put out my own point is, yeah, there were balloons there, but there are also UFOs. So there's this argument that it could be a false flag, meaning all of the things that we've been seeing, all the UAPs that have been in the news over the past few years were obviously balloons because of these most recent balloon shoot downs. And I think that's just terribly wrong. And Ryan Graves pointed that out here in this article. He had to get it out right away. Okay, so February 28th. Here's the first pic. There was the image. I covered this video. Scott Bray basically released this terrible video. It's an iPhone video of one of these objects off the East Coast taken from the front seat of an F-18 with an iPhone. It just whizzes by. You can just barely make out looks like a metallic circular object. That's all they gave us. So this is who wrote it. Ryan Graves, February 28th. Ryan Graves, a former Navy fighter pilot and engineer, chairs the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics UAP Integration and Outreach Committee. He's the founder of the new nonprofit Americans for Safe Aerospace. So this is the nonprofit he basically says he started in this article. On a clear sunny day in April 2014, two FA-18s took off for an air combat training mission off the coast of Virginia. The jets, part of my Navy fighter squadron, climbed to an altitude of 12,000 feet and steered towards warning area Whiskey 72, an exclusive block of airspace 10 miles east of Virginia Beach. All traffic into the training area goes through a single GPS point at a set altitude. So I've covered these as well. This is from 2014 off the East Coast. There's these training areas, right? Why do we train over the water? Because it's not loud, okay? Training over land causes a lot of issues. We can't use flares. Anything below 5,000 feet ground level, so AGO, we can't use flares often because it can set fires, etc. Also, if we accidentally go supersonic, we like to go supersonic if we can for training, obviously, but it causes really, really loud sonic boom. It causes huge issues for the population. So we don't like to go supersonic, right, over land. Over sea is a different story. We can go as fast as we want. We can go as high as we want. We can go supersonic. We can put out flares. We can put out chaff. We don't have to worry about radar. So again, we put out chaff, which is these little pieces of metal that evade radar. Okay, helps fighters evade radar. The problem is, what does chaff do? It messes with radars. Okay, on purpose. Does that on purpose. So ATC radars, general civilian radars, don't like military, don't like our jets putting out this chaff, right? And chaff clouds can mess with their clutter detection, right? So if we, as you saw, NORAD lowered their radar detections to actually pick up these balloons, they're going to pick up a lot more clutter, such as chaff that we put out there. So over the sea is where really the best training happens, okay? The problem with over the sea is anyone can look at it. So 12 miles outside of the coast of the US, Chinese, Russian, any fishing boats can be out there fishing, right? But just happen to have advanced electronic equipment on board, right? At the same point, and now they can monitor everything. So it's this basically kind of double-edged sword. But Whiskey 72, that's where the balloon was actually shot down. The actual Chinese spy balloon, they reference, the F-22s reference Whiskey 72 as they're going to shoot this thing down. So yeah, pretty interesting, right? Now, what Ryan Graves is setting up here is everyone goes out to these areas in a set manner. Okay, so normally you enter an airspace, there are entering rules. There's rules to enter a certain airspace. Whiskey 72 is going to be no different. There's going to be one point in the sky at a certain altitude as you fly into that airspace. Okay, you're going to be entering at this point, entering the airspace, normally 20,000 feet, say, and then when you're departing, you want to leave somewhere not 20,000 feet. Okay, normally it's underneath, or if it's a long way from the home base, it's going to be higher so that you can save gas. Okay, so in Italy, we entered at 20,000 and departed at 21,000 or above normally. Okay, so this is your entry point, GPS entry point, what he's talking about. So everyone has to go through this, which means it would be a great place to put up an observation post if you want to track everyone that's going into and out of an airspace. Okay, so what do they notice? They see something right as they're entering this airspace. Look at that. So this is a doorway, this entryway, almost like a doorway into a massive room where military jets can operate without running into other aircraft. This is the operating area, right? Why we keep our area. We tell civilian aircraft don't go in there, okay? Just at the moment, the two jets crossed the threshold. One of the pilots saw a dark gray cube inside of a clear sphere, motionless against the wind, fixed directly at the entry point. So this is so strange to me, right? When he says motionless against the wind, nothing in the air can do this. Okay, these balloons, why did I suspect they were balloons right away? You just get the feeling, even as they're tracking them, that they're tracking with the wind. And if you look at the actual jet stream, the jet stream goes from west to east over the US, and you can basically track the Lake Huron engagement, right? You can see where the jet stream goes over 100 miles per hour, probably even maybe up to 150 miles per hour at certain times. But nothing can sit, at least that I know of, can sit motionless in the wind. This is the strangest thing as a pilot that I read in any of these range failure reports, and he says it right here. The jets, only 100 feet apart, zipped past the object on either side. The pilots had come so dangerously close to something they couldn't identify that they terminated the training mission immediately and returned to base. This is interesting to me. I didn't know they terminated the mission. 100 feet apart is quite close, okay? So 100 feet apart is our non-tactical. This is just an admin going to and from the airspace formation. Normally jets are further apart, around a mile apart is our fighting distance, okay, at least. Why? Because we can't maneuver. A jet's turning radius is around a mile, at least 3,000 feet at those kind of fighter airspeeds. You're looking at the turning radius almost a mile. So if you see anything there, you're not going to be able to turn. So inside of a turning radius, in fighters, we think in terms of turning radius. If you're inside of my turning radius, then I can't point at you. If I can't point at you, then I'm in a tactically disadvantaged position. Okay, so I will always want to be able to point at the other person to put my weapons and sensors on them. So in this case, 100 feet, man, this is an admin. They're right next to each other, essentially, and something goes right through the aircraft. So if you imagine a F-18, the length's almost 60 feet long, then, almost the length of an F-18 is in between them, and this thing passes right between them. So very, very close, and they terminated. That's quite interesting to me. I did not know they actually terminated the mission. I assumed they continued on, did the mission, and then came back. But here they said it was serious enough that they terminated it. I almost hit one of those damn things, the flight leader said, still shaken by the incident, told us. We all knew exactly what he meant. Those damn things have been plaguing us for the previous 8 months. So 8 months. So it's just very interesting to me, right? And I think that's why Ryan wrote this article, the same as Alex Dietrich, why they came out is they've been saying there's crazy stuff in the air, in the airspace, military operating airspaces for years, and nothing was done. And here we have a few balloons, and all of a sudden the whole nation goes crazy, and they shoot these things down, they track them down. I joined the U.S. Navy in 2009 and underwent years of rigorous training as a pilot. Specifically, we were trained to be expert observers in identifying aircraft with our sensors and our own eyes. It's our job to know what's in our operating area. That's why in 2014, after upgrades were made to our radar system, our squadron made a startling discovery. There were unknown objects in our airspace. So I've covered his actual briefing in depth if you want to check that out. But he goes through and briefs exactly, I think, the same briefing that he gave to Congress, he gives in the AIAA, American Institute of Astronautics and Aeronautics. He's been working within that framework, again, to promote safety. His argument, I believe, is for safety, understanding what these things are. Initially, the objects were showing up on our newly upgraded radars, and we assumed they were ghost in the machine or software glitches. But then we began to correlate the radar tracks with multiple surveillance systems, including infrared sensors that detected heat signatures. Then came the hair-raising near misses that required us to take evasive action. And he mentions in that briefing that the big change was when they pointed their targeting pods at it. So that's those forward-looking infrared systems that you see that we use to target missiles and bombs. When he pointed those, or whoever did, pointed it at the object, so at those radar contacts, they saw something there. That means it wasn't a software glitch. They're actually getting back energy, so IR energy from that location. And that's when I think everything changed. Now you have the near misses and the squadron's kind of freaking out. Okay, this is what he's saying. These aren't balloons. The unidentified aerial phenomena accelerated at speeds up to Mach 1, the speed of sound. They could hold their position appearing motionless despite Category 4 hurricane force winds of 120 knots. They did not have any visible means of lift, control surfaces, or propulsion. In other words, nothing that resembled normal aircraft, wings, flaps, or engines, and they outlasted our fighter jets, operating continuously throughout the day. I'm a formerly trained engineer, but the technology they demonstrated defied my understanding. So this is just amazing, okay? Accelerating to Mach 1, okay? Accelerating to Mach 1. That alone is very interesting, okay? Going supersonic, okay? Again, we have special jets. They're pointy, that they can cut through the wind to actually go supersonic. They're putting out tons of heat. It's easy to see these things accelerate, a normal aircraft accelerating to Mach 1. But they couldn't see this. And they can appear motionless despite Category 4 hurricane force winds of 120 knots. Again, I've already mentioned this huge thing. If your whole air mass is moving, okay, as a pilot, as I'm flying through it, I have to consider that air mass is moving. So if the air mass is moving 120 knots in this area, we have to make changes. You have to actually point different directions with your aircraft or you will fly out of the airspace. Okay, so something that just sits there means it has to be able to go 120 knots into the wind. It has to be able to move 120 knots into the wind. And you know, helicopters, the fastest helicopter is around, I don't know it off the top of my head, around 150 knots. Okay, so you basically have to fly almost as fast as the fastest helicopter just to keep up with the wind. And at those altitudes, there's no way a helicopter can fly 120 knots at 25,000 feet. So nothing we know could do that. Could it be some drone? Possibly, but then how is it not moving? How is it staying there? How is it flying 120 knots into the wind? This is just mind-blowing to me. After that near miss, we had no choice but to submit a safety report, hoping that something could be done before it was too late. Okay, it looks like probably nothing was done. Okay, they ended up putting out NOTAMs. They issued the safety report. Even the squadron commander said it's only a matter of time before there is some sort of incident in Whiskey 72. Has there been an incident? Not that we know of. Okay, that's also interesting, isn't it? Nearly a decade later, we still don't know what they were. This is what I think why Ryan wrote this, why he's frustrated, is that, okay, we have some balloons, we shoot them down, everyone spends tons of money, millions of dollars, media, the president's talking about it, new task force, but he's been bringing this up for years, as well as on the West Coast with Alice Dietrich. Brought up in my last video, she brought up the Tic Tac. Okay, so we have multiple pilots from different places, different parts of the world talking about crazy unidentified aerial phenomena, and really nothing was done. Okay, nothing was done. When I retired from the Navy in 2019, I was the first active duty pilot to come forward and publicly testify in Congress. In the years since, there has been some notable coverage of the encounters, and Congress has taken some action to force the military and intelligence agencies to do more to get to the bottom. But there has not been anything near the level of public and official attention that's been paid to the recent shootdowns of a Chinese spy balloon and the other unknown objects that were likely research balloons, and that's a problem. Yeah, they've been talking about this for years. These are credible pilots inside our system who have been talking about it and just been ignored, completely ignored. And now miraculously, oh, there is stuff flying in our airspace. Let's go crazy and shoot it down. Okay, maybe not. Okay, why don't we think about this? Look into it more and actually take unidentified anomalous phenomena seriously. Have you guys considered that angle? I know it's a crazy angle. Advanced objects demonstrating cutting-edge technology that we cannot explain are routinely flying over our military bases or entering restricted airspace. Okay, just hiding and saying it's not there does not make it go away. Okay, this is from a report last month from the Director of National Intelligence, reported last month, citing 247 new reports over the last 17 months. UAP events continue to occur in restricted or sensitive airspace, highlighting possible concerns for safety of flight or adversary collection activity. Some UAP appear to remain stationary, winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. Okay, that is extremely strange. That is very strange. We should be looking into this. We should be looking into this. Okay, they've also highlighted there's been 11 near misses. That was in the original report. One thing, this is from Scott Bray, one thing we do know is these craft aren't part of some classified U.S. project. So The U.S. has said it's not them, right? We were quite confident that was not the explanation, Scott Bray, the Deputy Director of the Office of Naval Intelligence, testified before Congress last year. But as we've seen, the military has continually lied, the government has continually lied in the past about UAPs, about anything essentially that covers their asses, essentially, right? If they don't have to release the information, they can keep it secret, then the government absolutely will. They absolutely will. This is my belief. We will have to force to pull the information from their cold hands, is basically what I believe. Luckily, we have Congress motivated. Florida Senator Marco Rubio confirmed in a recent interview that whatever the origin of these objects is, it is not the military. We have things flying over our military bases in places where we're conducting military exercises and we don't know what it is and it isn't ours, said Rubio, who is vice chair of the Intelligence Committee. Okay, so Marco Rubio, I trust him to at least tell us as best he can. I don't know. I guess I trust Marco Rubio in this instance. He has access to all of the information, and he says it is not the U.S. military. So that's quite interesting, quite telling. Is he being lied to? That's the big question. Is he being lied to? Is Congress being lied to? They feel like they've been lied to definitely in the past, and that's where we see all these whistleblower protections. What the president did not address during his press conference February 16 were the UAP that exhibit advanced performance capabilities. Where is the transparency and urgency from the administration and Congress to investigate highly advanced objects in restricted airspace that our military cannot explain? How will this new task force be more effective in existing efforts if we are not being clear and direct about the scope and nature of advanced UAP? President Joe Biden rightly points out the real national security and aviation safety risks from foreign intelligence collection to hazard to civilian air traffic that arise from low-tech balloon-like entities. Ryan applauds President Biden's new order to create an interagency UAP task force and a government-wide effort to address unidentified objects, and his proposal to make sure all aircraft are registered and identified according to a global standard is good common sense. We've already done this several times, okay? We already had the UAP task force, okay? And then that went into the AGMS, the terribly named task force. And then we went into, was it Astro? Anyway, we ended up at Aero. Okay, we're here at Aero. We have a task force. We're on our third or fourth venture of a task force. We don't need another task force. Okay, we already have one. It'd be nice if the president knew that we already had one and that we're already working on this and that the military is already working on trying to decide because Congress is pushing them. Where's the transparency then? We don't need a new task force. We need information transparency. The American public must demand accountability. We need to understand what's in our skies, period. In the coming days, I will launch Americans for Safe Aerospace, a new advocacy organization for aerospace safety and national security. ASA will support pilots and other aerospace professionals who are reporting UAP. Our goal is to demand more disclosure from our public officials about the significant safety and national security problem. We'll provide credible voices, public education, grassroots activism, and lobbying on Capitol Hill to get answers about UAP. So excellent. So Ryan's leading the charge to form an American. I believe it should be more of a global effort. That's what I think personally, but I applaud Ryan's effort to at least promote it in the US, to start it, support these aviation professionals, get more reports out there and actually get it lobbied on Capitol Hill. That would be amazing. So I wish Ryan all the luck with this new venture. President Biden needs to address this issue as transparently as possible. The White House should not conflate the low-tech objects that were recently shot down with unexplained high-tech advanced objects witnessed by pilots. Okay, first off, I think that these objects, the spy balloon is not that low-tech, okay? Just because it's a balloon still could be very high-tech. That is a space asset, if you think about it. Space balloons are a space vehicle. It's just we kind of joke about them as being these cheap balloons, you know? But I think there is a future for space balloons. I think we will go up in space in a balloon before we'll go up in a rocket. So I think space balloons are a part of the future. And they can be high tech, but they are different from these things that aren't moving in the wind. Okay, you are not a balloon if you're not moving in the wind. And if you are a balloon that cannot move in 120 knots of wind or 150 knots up at altitude, 25,000 feet, then that is breakthrough technology that we don't understand. That is breakthrough technology. Is it some Project Beam space lasers? I don't know, but something's going on. Could it be extraterrestrial life? Alex Dietrich said it's possible. She's seen it. These guys, from my understanding, they don't think it's possible. They think it's absolutely not possible, so they're not even looking. They're looking around for balloons. Again, that's what they're worried about. So Ryan thinks we need a coordinated, data-driven response that unites the public and private sectors. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, the U.S. Space Force, and a host of other military and civilian agencies need to be marshaled in support of a much more aggressive and vigilant effort, along with our scientific community and private industry. Yeah, definitely. This has been needed to be done for 8 decades, and it hasn't. And I'm sure people have tried, and I fully support Ryan Graves on this. I hope he succeeds and wish him all the luck. That being said, they have to actually believe that it's possible. And I don't think they actually believe it's possible. They never mention aliens, extraterrestrial life. Again, it's too far away. We can't travel faster than light. All these abduction stories are obviously just made up stories, even though there are hundreds and thousands of them, and they all seem to corroborate. Anyway, I'm not as hopeful, but I will totally support him. Right now, the pieces of the UAP puzzle are scattered across silos in the military, government, and private sector. We need to integrate and analyze these massive data sets with new methods like AI. We also need to make this data available to the best scientists outside of government. I fully agree with that. There are so many people starting new efforts, right? There's new databases every day. I hear about a different database forming, a UAP analysis database, right? In the end, though, all we really need is one solid case, and we do have a lot of these cases. I am hopeful, though, with AI, with these other tools coming on board, that we can solve this UAP problem. Ryan Graves continues, I am impressed by the recent whistleblower protections enacted last year to encourage more pilots and others to come forward, and I support the fresh push by Rubio and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand for full funding of Aero. Given the stakes, Congress also needs to fund grants for more scientific inquiry of UAP. Above all, we need to listen to pilots. Military and civilian pilots provide critical first-hand insights into advanced UAP. Right now, the stigma attached to reporting UAP is still too strong. Since I came forward about UAP in 2019, only one other pilot from my squadron has gone public. Commercial pilots also face significant risks to their careers for doing so. New rules are needed to require civilian pilots to report UAP, protect the pilots from retribution, and a process must be established for investigating their reports. Derision or denial over the unknown is acceptable. This is a time for curiosity. If the phenomenon I witnessed with my own eyes turns out to be foreign drones, they pose an urgent threat to national security and airspace safety. If they are something else, it must be a scientific priority to find out. Totally concur with Ryan, and I applaud all his efforts. So check out his article on Politico. Check out his new merged podcast. These recent balloon shootdowns should highlight our lack of information about UAPs. It should highlight the lack of effort, the lack of actually taking these things seriously. Advanced vehicles. Our pilots are canceling training missions because they think they hit them. They saw them. They see them on radar. There is data. So just closing your eyes, putting your head in the sand is not going to make the UAP problem go away. We could actually collaborate, work together, and try and find a solution. Either way, it's going to come from us. So thanks for being here. Like you heard it from Ryan, it'll take people like you and me talking to our senators, looking out there, being interested in this stuff, and continuing to ask the questions because they're just going to continue to go on with their daily job. Like, I don't know. It seems, how could you not answer this question? It's just, I can't imagine, if you're out there as a military aviator and you're seeing stuff daily out there, how can you not say anything? How can we not investigate that? I think it's on us. We need to be out there doing stuff, actually doing stuff. So thanks for being here. Smash that like button. First thing, smash the like button. That will help. Share this information and then subscribe to get notifications of future videos. You can get backstage access and join the Lehto Files Chris Lehto team at patreon.com/Chris Lehto. It's only $5 a month. You get exclusive content and you'll get your name right up here next to these amazing people. So thanks for being here. Have a great day. Peace.
Nickel 6-1 Tango, Roger, Roger.
Oh, got it! Woohoo!
Roger, there's troubleshooting as soon as I get
Are you box moving target?
602.